You are listening to Mining Stock Education, where you'll learn from the top leaders in the natural resource sector and uncover quality mining investment opportunities.
I think that the Hot Springs Range project is it's the best early stage Carlin-type project that I know about, because it's got everything that you need. It's got the host rock, it's got some indicators, it has exactly the kind of geophysics that you would be looking for, showing these deep-seated structures that are necessary to bring the ore fluids up to where the host rock is.
Welcome back to Mining Stock Education. I'm your host, Bill Powers, and we're checking in with one of our sponsors in a company that I invested in last summer, I think at about 70 cents Canadian through a private placement. And this company is ready to have the drill turning in 2022 in Nevada. 4 very prospective projects. 2 of them are kind of low-hanging fruit, and 2 of them kind of give that bigger, many multi-million ounce potential. At least that's what the geological targets are looking to shape out to right now. I'm talking about Eminent Gold Corp. The website is EminentGoldCorp.com, ticker symbol in Toronto, EMNT, and on the OTCQB it is EMGDF. Joining me is Dan McCoy. He's a PhD and he has a lot of success under his belt, including finding a 5 million ounce deposit in Africa. He's the chief geologist, as well as Paul Sung. He is the president, CEO, and director. So gentlemen, welcome on to the show again. We last spoke in October, Paul. So bring us up to speed. That was about 3-4 months ago. What has the company been up to?
Great. Thanks very much, Bill. And thanks again for having us on your show. We appreciate it. So yeah, I think shortly after we spoke, we put out positive results from our first phase surface exploration at Gilbert South. And you were just mentioning, the low-hanging fruit. Gilbert South is certainly one of those projects. It sits within the prolific Walker Lane trend, which for those that don't know, has produced over 80 million ounces of gold in its storied past. The surface work identified 6 targets, meaning that pretty much the majority of the property has mineralization on it. And our primary target returned up to 30 grams per ton in rock samples. And then later that month in October, we put out an update on Weepah, which again is a project in the Walker Lane trend. And we sampled up to 60 grams per ton there. And the exciting update there is that we think we found a potential feeder structure that could link the historical Weepah West and East deposits. So just to refresh your memory, Weepah is the actually oldest or first open pit in Nevada's history. It's produced over 117,000 ounces of gold. And the significance of this feeder structure is it's over 1 kilometer in distance. So it's a good strike length there. And then coming back to Gilbert South in November, we finally got the soils back from the lab, and really they just effectively confirmed a multi-kilometer gold system on that property. So very excited about Gilbert South. It was the 4th entrant to our portfolio, and certainly happy that we grabbed it. And then of course today we announced that we doubled our district position at Spanish Moon. We have potentially identified a new target, which is directly analogous to the Round Mountain mine, which sits 13 kilometers away from our district position. And, Round Mountain has produced over 23 million ounces of gold. So again, super exciting on that. And Dan will probably talk about that more on the technical side.
Yeah, and I want to go over that press release you put out about Spanish Moon. But before we do, I mentioned you're a PhD, but you're not the only PhD on the team. So just refresh us as to the qualifications of your technical team.
Thanks, Bill, and thanks for having us. Basically, everywhere you go in the world, there's some limiting factor that you have to overcome. In developing countries, that can often be social, political, even cultural. In Nevada, essentially, you need a really strong technical team because the geology here is very complex. And you have to have people that know the terrain. So Ajit and Justin Milliard, they just got their PhDs. They did their dissertations on exactly the kind of deposits that we're looking for. And that's exactly what we need. They're exactly at the point in their career where they can really contribute value because they have studied all the latest things about these deposit types. We also have Luke Schrons. He has his master's degree just completed last year. He's the youngest member of our team and just amazing what he already knows and already contributes based on, that he's still quite a young guy. To balance that out, we also have Mark Kuhlbaugh. He's actually an professor at the University of Reno. And he's an amazing guy technically. Besides being really super great, best mineralogist I know, he's always leaving me behind in the field when it comes to identifying minerals. But he's also really super good geologic mapper. And what he's done for us, as well as those things, is he's been doing statistical analysis. As you probably know, when you get multi-element samples, you're generally you're getting a whole bunch of elements besides the ones you're looking for. And, you can use those. And so he's been doing this principal component analysis on all of our soils and rocks, and this is really helping to kind of point us in the direction of where the big one might be. And of course, my original partner, Jim Slayton, he's actually a fourth generation Nevada. So this guy was riding his dirt bike around in Nevada back in the late 60s. And he's worked for many major companies. And, geographically, if you're interested in a spot, he's already been there. So, and like me, he's kind of an older gentleman, so we've been prospecting since, the time we were very young and doing it a long time. So I think what the team really has is it has great balance. One of the things that the younger geologists bring is that they really super technologically up to date. So that, they know how to run these 3D programs that incorporate all your data and are really effective when it comes down to, where do we put the drill? So, I love talking about our technical team because it's frankly the best one I've ever been a part of. And that's what we need.
So one of your projects, which Paul referenced already, it basically overlooks Round Mountain, doesn't it? Spanish Moon. And you're talking about this as if it could be an analog to Round Mountain, which is like 30 million ounces. Explain to us further why this might be.
Well, what we're seeing, and it's interesting because this later target, once again, a lot of times it's like you get on the ground with the right people and all of a sudden you see things that, hadn't been previously recognized. So when we first got onto Spanish Moon, we knew generally okay, we've got these two huge events that happened that both contributed heat and water and metals to the environment. One was the intrusion, and we're exactly on the opposite side of the Round Mountain intrusion from Round Mountain. The other is these gigantic caldera events, which is interesting because you look at just what happened in Tonga, that's exactly what was happening in this part of Nevada 30 million years ago. I mean, you had these gigantic volcanic events that were happening that were, bringing a lot of gold, a lot of mineralization to the surface. And so Spanish Moon literally fell between the cracks. I mean, it fell between the cracks of these intrusions, fell between the cracks of these calderas. It fell between the cracks of the gold market because there was a drill hole at Spanish Moon that was 13.5 meters or 7.6 grams. That was the last drill hole that was drilled there back in 2003. And so,
why was it left alone then, since then, if you could elaborate?
I think for a few reasons. One is that we are in U.S. National Forest Service land. To me, that's not a killer, but it's a little bit more of a difficult permitting destination than just regular BLM claims. Because of that, we've hired consultants that specifically they've been able to get permits for Newcrest and a much, much more sensitive part of Nevada. And they've been working with us. And because we had these other three projects to work on, we can afford the extra time it takes to permit. Frankly, we need that extra time because, like I said, we're just seeing this new target. So this new target, what we call the Metal Canyon, has caused us to expand our claims significantly. And what we're seeing is the same exact structural connection and the same exact proximal occurrence to one of these calderas that both Round Mountain has, as well as the Manhattan District, which is another similar district to the south of us. The reason that Metal Canyon hasn't really been explored yet is because it's got some post-mineral cover on it. It has some very thin ash layers. By post-mineral cover, I mean volcanic rocks that have happened since the mineralization happened at Round Mountain. So you've got, a bunch of ash, a bunch of very thin, tough layers. And, we believe that under that could be the significant target that we're looking for, the one that looks a lot like Round Mountain. And so, our next step is geophysics, get the permitting done. The Forest Service is actually, despite the usual delay, they're pretty reasonable. And we're going out to the field with them to look at some of the roads here shortly. So we don't think that'll be a problem. We think by the time we get the geophysics done, by the time we know exactly where we want to drill, that we'll have our POO, which is essentially the permit we need to begin to work there.
So Dan, in addition to Spanish Moon, your other potential Grand Slam swing is Hot Springs Range. I understand it's about ready to be drilled. Remind us again, what is the potential here?
I think that the Hot Springs Range project is it's the best early stage Carlin-type project that I know about, because it's got everything that you need. It's got the host rock. It's got some indicators. It has exactly the kind of geophysics that you would be looking for, showing these deep-seated structures that are necessary to bring the ore fluids up to where the host rock is. And, I think it really speaks to the strength of particularly, Justin and Ajit, as Luke, who all worked on this project prior to me actually working for the company, that they basically had this idea. It had made only 15 kilometers from the Getchell trend. Like, why didn't anybody else see this? And once again, I think it speaks to their training and their hard work, essentially, really, to that they recognize this. And since then, everything's kind of proven out. We're seeing, even though the Meadow Canyon project at Spanish Moon, even though like that, it's got some post-mineral cover, in this case, some basalts, we're still seeing the geochemical leakage we would want to see, and the exact kind of host rock that we're hoping to have. And the geophysics, it was amazing because they drew these cross sections. Geophysics comes in and it shows the cross sections exactly. And so, I couldn't be more excited. We've got the permits, we've got a drill reserved, and we're furiously figuring out where to process core and to do all that other kind of stuff. And but logistically, we're ready to go, and certainly from an excitement point of view, we're ready to go. This will be our first drill program.
And since we haven't spoken 3-4 months, remind us again of your two other projects, the lower hanging fruit I referred to, Weepah and Gilbert South.
Bill, we believe that really you need a two-pronged approach, particularly in Nevada, but essentially anywhere in the world. You have to be taking the big shots, because that's what your investors expect you to do when you're a discovery company, and that gives you the potential out of, hopefully getting bought out by a major mid-tier mining company. And so we've never shied away from taking the big shots in places that haven't been drilled before. At the same time, you have to keep one foot in ore. You need to have some good probability of making a hit on a known mineral system. So basically, Gilbert South and Weepah are both projects where we know, because they've had previous mining, and we know because there's been previous exploration. So we knew that, this was going to be more high probability type exploration. And we've proven that. We've gotten 30 to 60 grams per ton over more than a meter on both projects. And Weepah is interesting because we're actually getting we're seeing this mineralization in faults that were never recognized before. So this gives us a whole different way to view this project. We really think that Weepah is an epithermal target rather than the mesothermal target it was identified as before. So, this opens up a whole new avenue for us to explore there. The Gilbert South target is one of the best behaved low sulfidation epithermal type bonanza gold type systems I've ever seen. It's the veins, the gold is where you would expect it to be. And a lot of the places where it is ones that have had minor underground mining before. Look at, obviously the old timers were hitting some of these high grades. We're applying a whole bunch of things, technical things, CSA, MTG physics. We're doing a lot of spectral analysis, which we think is focusing on where the main feeder, the Midas style vein that we're looking for. We're thinking, we're moving in on it. We'll be ready to drill both of those projects, second and third quarter of this year. So it's going to be a very exciting year because we're essentially going to try to prove up everything that we've been working on. So I'm really excited about it.
Well, thank you for that overview and reminder, Dan and Paul. So it sounds like we're going to be drilling at least 3 projects this year. And these are prospective projects. You just laid out the prospectivity, but ultimately the truth machine determines if there's value there. So what are the drilling and financing plans?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, our portfolio is great, as Dan mentioned, 4, so we're diversified. We don't need to drill them all at the same time, but if we wanted to, we could. The cost of drilling all of them would probably be between $5 to $6 million, which is the real benefit of being in Nevada with, great infrastructure, access to great resources, as well as having an amazing tech team that Dan leads. In terms of drill readiness, as mentioned, we're pretty much ready to go on 3 of the 4 projects, with first one being Hot Springs. And from a cash perspective, at the end of our last reported quarter, which was Q3, we had just over $2 million in cash. But of course, like an exploration company, we will need to raise money to move forward on our drill plans. But at this point, we're actually pretty comfortable that we have good access to capital. We're all owners. So we're anti-dilutive. We're very cognizant of that. So if the market's not robust, we can always drill in stages. We don't have to, do it all now at a price that we don't like.
So trading liquidity, I'd also like to get your commentary on that. I invested because of the tight share structure, but sometimes that can be a double-edged sword for investors listening to us. They're looking at the trading liquidity and say, oh, it's not maybe as liquid as I'd like. What's your commentary here?
Absolutely, for sure. We do have a very tight cap table with just over 40 million shares outstanding. So it may be hard to buy for a potential investor as management, insiders, key technical personnel. We own over half of the company, which is a good thing because we want it to work out, obviously. And the other half is held mostly by high net worth individuals like yourself, like others who are aligned to really wait for what we hope will be the next big discovery in Nevada. So it is difficult to get in, but I would suggest new investors be patient, get in ahead of our inaugural drill program because things are, as Dan said, it's going to be an exciting year.
And that would be Hot Spring Range in a couple of months. Is that what we should expect?
That's right. Yeah, Hot Springs Range. If things go well, kind of Q1, Q2 kind of time frame.
And so results by June. Initial results, I should say, of core results.
I'd say, yeah. I mean, I think the lab. I mean, we'll see, but it'll be in batches. But that time frame is probably about right.
The labs have been catching up. From the original. COVID hit them hard, obviously, but now they're getting staffed up again, and we're seeing the kind of turnarounds that are we're more used to.
And one more thing, Paul, on financing. So should the investors expect the financing sometime this year? You mentioned $5 to $6 million to drill all these programs.
Yeah. And as I said, I would expect us to tap the market sometime this year. As mentioned, we don't have to do it all at once. If we have a great share price, we might take more than we need. If the market doesn't hang in, I mean, gold's up today again, which is great for everybody. So we'll see, and we have the flexibility with our portfolio that we can stage things if we need to. Really, we're very, anti-dilution focused, if you will. So we definitely will be coming. It's just a matter of how much and exactly when, but that's the plan.
Dan, this question may be a little redundant to what you already shared. You discovered a 5 million ounce deposit in Africa, as I referenced earlier. So how do these prospects compare in terms of scale and appeal to you?
Well, it's interesting that our discoveries both in Africa as well as in with Caden in Mexico, where we were taken out by Agnico Eagle on a discovery that we made there. They were all like 3 years into the company. We had worked at other prospects and killed them before we ever got to those prospects. I think the portfolio we have right now is actually superior to those companies because we haven't killed any projects yet, which is very surprising to me. I thought by now, we'd be killing some and maybe picking up others, but we're more enthusiastic for all of our projects than we were when we got into them. And that's a rare thing. And I think it speaks to how good our technical team is that they were able to come in and take a look at these old districts and say, well, wait a minute. Yeah, the mine's going like this, but we think the ore is being fed by this, and proving it up with follow-up sampling or geophysics. And so, I'd say I'm actually more excited. I'm more excited about this than I actually was about the other two. Not that the other two were slouches, but I really think that we have an amazing portfolio, and we have the people and the financial power to make it come real.
Paul, you met Dan financing one of his past discoveries and success stories. So you've seen a lot on the finance side of the business where people come to you asking for money, but now you're the chief executive of an exploration company. So perhaps share your take on the opportunity here.
Great. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Caden was definitely a memorable one for me. Of course, it ended in the sale of Agnico, but, not only was that a great experience to see that happen, but it also led me to Dan. And, we're truly lucky to have him at Eminent, where we think he'll be, finding gold for a third time, with, Keegan in Africa, with Caden in Mexico. And as he mentioned, I think Eminent is really unique. We have this dream team of geos, 3 PhDs, all living in Nevada. If they're going to find something in Nevada, it's going to be by this team. They're driving the portfolio with new concepts, new technology, fresh perspectives in Nevada, where a lot of people think it's been picked over, but actually there's a lot of underexplored, or in some cases not explored at all, situations like hot springs. So when I think back, being a capital markets executive for over 15 years and looking at all these projects, as a gold investor myself, I think Eminent does tick all the boxes in that you're getting a team that has found gold multiple times in the past. So they've created shareholder value. We're in the number one jurisdiction for gold exploration and development. And really, we're at an inflection point. We're about to drill for the first time in the company's history. So we all know that making discoveries tend to be where an investor makes the biggest return in the whole, mining life cycle. So I think really the time to be involved is Eminent, and, we're all super excited to see what happens.
All right. The website for the company is eminentgoldcorp.com, ticker symbol EMNT in Toronto, and on the OTC QB, EMGDF. Really appreciate you gentlemen coming on. Paul and Dan, thank you for providing this overview and update.
Thanks again for having us. Really appreciate it.